Writing is something that's part of you, and only by living it can you understand that it's not something you just turn on and turn off. It's not something that you can decide to become an overnight success at. You need to nurture it and show up for it.
Welcome to the StoryADay podcast. This is Julie Duffy from StoryADay.org, encouraging you to be a writer every day, not someday.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Julie here from StoryADay. I am here this week to talk to you about all kinds of stuff, some industry stuff, some motivational stuff. Last week I was talking to you about the benefits of taking a writing vacation and encouraging you to think about how you could do that best in your circumstances. If you haven't listened to that yet, you can go back and catch up. This week I'm going to be encouraging you to do something slightly different, which is commit to your writing on a regular basis, not in the way that it becomes a grind, but in a fun way. More about that in a minute. But I wanted to just check in with some of the stuff that's happening in the writing industry. At the moment, this month, there is a big lawsuit happening. So if you are on any of the writer socials, especially writer Twitter, which has long been the water cooler for industry types. It's where I follow agents and editors and authors. Everybody is, you're likely to be seeing at the moment people talking about royalties and advances, and all of a sudden everyone's talking about this. Why are they talking about this? Because Penguin Random House is talking about acquiring Simon & Schuster, which is currently a subsidiary of Viacom. Viacom wants to spin it off. Somebody's going to buy Simon & Schuster. Penguin Random House thinks it should be them. Of course, that has raised questions about what that does to the publishing industry, which had a few years ago 6 major publishers, then it shrunk down to 5, then it's 4, and what would it be now? And so the Department of Justice is in court at the moment, making the case that PRH should not be able to acquire Simon & Schuster because it would be anti-competitive, antitrust, anti-monopoly. It would be a monopoly. It would impact authors' ability to make decent money. Jane Friedman has a really insightful article in her Hot Sheet newsletter this month about all of this, and points out that what we're talking about in this case is really the high earning, the top 2% of authors. We're talking about 1,200 books. We're talking about the really highest level of people who are getting the big advances and whether or not this merger would impact them. It's a really instructive case because for a lot of us, a lot of people, until you really start paying attention, have no idea how the publishing industry works. When we walk into bookstores, we imagine that the books that we see are earning all of their authors a nice, decent, maybe middle-class living. Not the case. Most writers have main jobs and their writing is their second job. Most writers cram even the contracted work into their spare time. And I follow writers on Twitter all the time who have side hustles and other gigs and full-time jobs and the stress of deadlines and the stress of having to promote their work themselves. So not to depress you, but just to emphasize the fact that the dream of going the traditional publishing route isn't necessarily something that you should worry about or want. It's certainly not the only measure of success. I talk about that a lot here. I was going through some feedback from the StoryADay May challenge yesterday, and I actually find it quite hard to read that stuff because there's so much emotion in people when they come to the challenge, and even if they only write 5 or 6 stories during the month only, if they write anything, if they write one story, just the emotion that comes pouring out of people and the gratitude and the just elation that they have managed to write a story for the first time in decades, that they've managed to unlock something that was stuck inside them for so long. That's the kind of That's what we all want from our writing. And if it could fund our lives, that would be awesome. But I think it's worth paying attention to this Department of Justice PRH court case to get an insight into what the traditional publishing industry looks like. And before you get discouraged about that, I would also encourage you to go and look at what people are doing in terms of independent publishing. It is so much easier now, even than it was 10 years ago. There are so many people who will do your book layout for you, do a cover for you. There are so many ways to learn how to write back flap copy. Things that you would have to do anyway, even if you were going the traditional publishing route, because you have to pitch your book to agents. So you have to learn how to write a sales pitch for your book anyway, which is what is on the back cover of the book. So there's tons and tons of information out there. There's tons of ways to get feedback. People in the indie publishing space are incredibly transparent, which is hilarious. When you know a little bit about the traditional publishing industry and how it's not transparent at all, they tend to send royalty checks if you ever earn out your advance. They send royalty checks randomly if and when, maybe 90 days, maybe within 90 days of when you made a sale. You never really know if your book's selling. It's the lack of transparency in traditional publishing has been met with almost embarrassing transparency from the indie publishers. There are forums everywhere that you can find where people are talking about their earnings, how they got them, how they advertise, what keywords they're looking at. And all that sounds kind of overwhelming when you just want to write a book, or if you just want to be writing. So you don't have to worry about any of this stuff. But it's really, really important to take a clear-eyed look and figure out what it is that you want your writing to do for you. If you want it to earn your keep, there's going to be a lot of stuff you're going to have to learn. If you want it to be a part of a whole happy, fulfilled life, then you figure out what that looks like and how you can keep pushing yourself, challenging yourself, and turning up for the thing that makes you happy, even when it's hard and even when nobody's paying you. For example, there is a guy called Alex Newton who puts out reports. He goes into Amazon and he analyzes what's actually selling in which subcategories. He does romance and fantasy, but he doesn't just do romance and fantasy. He does like narrow slices of each of those, and he takes all the data he can find, which Amazon doesn't give up that easily. He takes sales ranks and positions and categories and stuff, and he slices it all up and he makes reports of them. And this is another thing that Jane Friedman was talking about in her newsletter this month. He was talking about this month urban fantasy, which is the #1 subcategory in fantasy. I think romance and the various romance subcategories are still up there as #1, but urban fantasy is #1 in the fantasy realm. You're not getting much in the way of elves and dwarves in urban fantasy. This is your real world vampires, werewolves, witches, people living in our world in contemporary settings, in towns, going to Starbucks and having this other side to their life as well. And you may not even have heard of urban fantasy. You may have heard of it and not known what it was. You may not have ever read any, or you might be one of those people who are writing these stories, and because you're not seeing them on the New York Times bestseller list, you feel like a freak. You feel like you're the only person who enjoys this kind of stuff, and how are you ever going to find readers for this weird story that you have about a person who tracks down ghouls and works nights at the Walgreens? And you know, who's writing this stuff? Lots of people. And you know what else? Lots of people are reading it. Learning about a little bit about the publishing industry can actually be quite energizing. It can actually give you a lot of encouragement that your weird and wonderful tales that you're telling have an audience out there. There are gatekeepers, sure, but there are ways to get around them, and there are voracious readers out there who are looking for what you're writing. Your job is to write the best stories that you can by writing a lot of stories, by learning how to revise them, by learning how to connect with your characters and with readers, and you get to do that by engaging with other writers, and you get to write a lot by making a commitment to show up for your writing, not just when you're inspired, not just when you have time, but over and over again on a regular basis. I don't think you have to write every day, although I'm the story a day girl, right? It sounds like I think you should be writing a story a day all the time. I don't. I created Story a Day and its challenge over a decade ago to address a specific need. I was not writing enough, and I knew that I needed to outrun my demons. Speaking of urban fantasy, I knew that I needed to write faster than my doubt could run. So I challenged myself to write a story a day for a month. Other people, that has definitely appealed to them. One of the things that I learned along the way is that it doesn't appeal to everyone. It's then another thing, really hard to sustain, pretty exhausting, and it doesn't work for everyone. But another thing I learned is how to write prompts that are flexible enough and inspiring enough to encourage people to write complete stories. And it tickles me every year when I hear from people stories that started out in Story a Day or in one of my workshops that have gone on to become published stories or prize-winning stories, or stories that they've put in an anthology or sent to a friend, or stories that have just got completed, made the writer happy, made a reader happy, and it's just such a great thing. And I hear it all the time. It's incredibly flattering. It makes me very, very happy to hear these stories. So in the old days, I used to send out, between challenges, I tried to send out a writing prompt every Wednesday. It was quite a lot of work. I did it sporadically, maybe 3 out of 4 Wednesdays I actually sent a writing prompt out. So I've got this archive now of over 540 writing prompts at the Story a Day site. What I want to do is get serious about actually sending you a writing prompt every week, because you can write when the timing is right, and I want to create an opportunity that you are planning for the time to be right every week. And yeah, you can take weeks off, but if the expectation is that you're going to spend some time on your writing every week, you get more serious, you get more creative, and you get more productive, and then your writing gets better. To give myself the accountability for it, I am creating a new option, a new newsletter, and it's not free. It's something that you can opt into. It's a subscription newsletter, and I will send you a writing lesson, inspiration, and bit of coaching every Wednesday without fail, because that's what I'm committing to, and you will be my accountability for this. You will get accountability to yourself by signing up for it. And I'm going to come up with some ways for you to increase that accountability as well. I'll talk more about that. So you need to get on my newsletter, storyaday.org, fill in the box, get on the newsletter so you can hear about that. Got some bonuses for you when I start this new newsletter, which is coming up soon. Been working hard on this idea for quite a while now, and I wanted to hold. I'm usually a person who leaps ahead and builds things, as I go. This one I've been planning, so I'm really confident that what I have for you here is going to be a top-notch newsletter service, and you will get a writing prompt every Wednesday for a year. It will take you through different types of stories. It will build your skills incrementally. None of it is obligatory. You can read the email every week and you can write or you can not write, but there'll be writing nuggets in there that will help you take a moment to think about your writing, and then you'll have this archive of writing prompts that you've read and digested, ready to dip back into. Rather than having to come to the site and search for prompts randomly, I'm going to take you through a process of starting with what sort of easy prompts and building on your skills throughout the year. I think it's going to be great. I hope that you will decide that this is something that you want to to do as a commitment for yourself to go at this slower pace. As I say, there's no obligation to actually write a story a week, although I'm calling the thing a story a week, because you're going to get this, you're going to get strategies, you're going to get inspiration, a little bit of coaching every week in your inbox. It's going to arrive on Wednesday, so you can either get writing straight away, if that makes sense to you, or you can let it sit, you can let it percolate a little bit. Maybe you've got more time for writing on the weekend, and maybe you can block off some time on Saturday mornings or Sunday afternoons to work with the prompt each week. And you can go at your own pace. You can decide to write or not to write. You can track how it feels when you write or don't write. And I just think that if you spend a year showing up for your writing through all the seasons, it teaches you, I know this because I've seen it with the Superstars group. If you show up throughout each of the seasons of the year as a writer, you learn so much about yourself. You learn about what you like to write. You learn about what it feels like to write when it's dark and cold outside, and you have to maybe force yourself to keep going, or maybe it's easier for you then. You learn about what it's like to write when the seasons are changing, when, you know, life is going at a different pace, and you learn those rhythms, and you don't think that writing is this abstract thing which lives outside your life, outside your biology, outside your environment. Writing is something that's part of you, and only by living it can you understand that it's not something you just turn on and turn off. It's not something that you can decide to become an overnight success at. You need to nurture it and show up for it. So that's what my new premium newsletter is all about. It's about you and me showing up for each other week after week throughout the year. It's going to be great. And I wouldn't worry if you're worried that if everybody's writing to the same prompt, aren't we all going to come up with stories that are similar? No. 12 years of StoryADay May has proved to me there is no way that two people are going to write the same story based on the same prompt. It is hilarious and inspiring and kind of amazing to see the stories that come out of the same prompts. Sometimes I can see the DNA of the prompt in various stories that I get sent, because maybe, you know, there was a crocheted portal to an alternate dimension one year was one of the prompts. So I saw that in a few stories and I was like, oh yeah, that's but the stories themselves, completely different, totally different subjects, all based in the writer's preoccupations, the writer's style, the writer's abilities, level. It's great. So I hesitate to call it writing prompts because you can find writing prompts anywhere on the web, and you can, you know, go and spin things, you can roll dice, you can select random words from a book. These can all work fine to get you writing, but if you want 12 years worth of expertise in putting together writing lessons that inspire you to actually create complete works of fiction, not journal entries, not fragments, not things you can't finish, not partial moments, scenes, character sketches. I mean, you're welcome to do that stuff, but these writing lessons are designed with a short story framework in mind to be things that you can complete. Some of them, I know, will balloon and want to become novels, and that's fine too. The more you write, the more ambitious you get, and that's great. But each of these writing prompts that comes to you in the Story a Week newsletter is designed with all of my experience to help you write something that really makes you feel like you're making progress. You're not writing fragments, you're not just like spinning your wheels. You're crafting stories, and then crafting another story, and then crafting another story, and learning all the time. And it's just so rewarding to push yourself that little bit extra, to fail sometimes, to write things that are just not great, and then suddenly write something which sings. I'm excited, as you can tell. I hope you'll sign up. Link is in the description. And if you have any questions, you can email me at julie@storyaday.org. You can come over to this blog post for this episode of the podcast, which the link again will be in the description. And let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what questions you have, and let me know how it's going for you. How's your writing going? What are you anticipating for the rest of this year? What are you worried about? What is holding you back? What's exciting you? I want to know what's going on in your head. I love it when I hear from people. Like I say, I was going through the feedback from the StoryADay challenge, and it is just so exciting to hear from other writers about what they're going through, what they're experiencing, what questions they have for me. I also want to remind you that I will be talking at the Writer Unboxed conference, which, true to form, is not like any other conference that you've been to online or off. They love to really think hard about the audience experience whenever they run an event. The level of care that goes into creating Writer Unboxed events is incredible. The level of expertise that they attract is astonishing. I am completely humbled to have been asked to contribute to that, and I'm super excited to go to all of the sessions. Nothing overlaps anything, so I will be able to go to everything, which is awesome. So if you're interested in that, have a look at writerunboxed.com and look for their conference, which is running from September to October over several weekends, and check that out too. What else am I up to? I've been doing some workshops with the StoryADay Superstars. I've got quite an archive of these workshops now, and I'm thinking that even if you're not ready to join the Superstars, maybe some of these workshops might be useful to you. If that's of interest to you, let me know, and I'm going to think about putting those up as sort of a la carte classes that you'd be able to take whenever you want to. But, I'm not going to do all that work if nobody's interested, so let me know if you're interested. Workshops like how to submit, creating compelling characters, how to manage the midpoint of a story, all kinds of interesting stuff we've done. I've got about 18 workshops that I've done with the Superstars at this point, and a lot of them I think could be useful and interesting to everyone. So let me know if you're interested. Maybe I'll think about that. I don't like to work too hard, but if you're interested, then I'll put in a little work for you. Again, thank you for listening. If you know someone who you think would be interested in this podcast, I'm lining up some interesting guests for the next few months, which should be good. So it's always fun to have conversations with writers, and I'm going to get a few people on here to talk about short story writing and the writing habit and their writing process, which should be interesting. So if you know anyone else who should be listening to this podcast, share it with them. Subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, you know what to do, bells and buttons and all that kind of stuff. And let me know how it's going. I love to hear from you. If you have a question, get in touch, and most of all, keep writing.
Thanks for listening. Why not come over to the blog at storyaday.org and check out this week's writing prompts and articles. And in the meantime, have a great creative week, and of course, keep writing.